Hi, how are you? Today we will be talking about competition in the market and artificial intelligence. But before we discuss the whole topic, let me say just two things. First, it's more like a question. Why am I not talking about competition law? Because I'm a lawyer and I teach law at several universities. Why am I talking about only competition in the market? Because I do not have very high hope of law. I think that law is merely a tool to an end, and that end is mostly an economic end. So whenever I tell students my definition of law, I just tell them this, that law is a means to an economic end. And that tool is controlled by those people who control the lawmaking machinery. And there are many more videos in my channel where I explain how does that happen. And that's why instead of talking about law, I will be talking about the concept of competition and the way that notion plays out in real sense in the market. And coming to the second point, why are we talking about artificial intelligence? The fourth industrial revolution, as we call it. Because that's the most important thing when it comes to competition, because competition is happening in the market that is the foundation of an economy. Let me try to make some sense. We have economy. No, let me start with society. We have society. The society runs on economy because without jobs, people will not have the means to achieve their goals. And without people achieving their goals, society is not a progressive civilization. So that's why at the foundation of the society, we have economy in place. In an economy, there is a market where there is an activity happening. That is, people are selling something, people are buying something. Primarily, those things are of two types, products and services. So it means that you have seller, you have buyer, and you have a transaction happening between these two people. The most basic way to understand what a market is. Summing it up, in a society, the foundation is economy. In an economy, there is a market. In market, there is an activity happening. There is a transaction happening. Who is a party to that transaction? There is a seller. There is a buyer, primarily. Now, there is not a single seller. There are many sellers. What are they trying to do? What is their goal? The goal of the seller is to make profits because that's why they are in the business of selling products and services to the consumers. How do sellers earn profit? Sellers earn more profit when they are able to sell more and more things to consumers. Also, in order to do that, they want more and more consumers to go to them. So sellers are always competing for a bigger market share. At the same time, they are competing on two bases. Primarily, it used to be static competition, which according to Joseph Schumpeter has changed into dynamic competition. Now, let me explain to you very briefly what these two competitions are. Static competition and dynamic competition. In static competition, the competitors, the sellers, are competing on the basis of prices. It means that the person who is able to sell a product or a service at a lower price will be getting a bigger share of the market because people prefer to buy things at a lower price. And that's why they choose that seller that is providing that product or service at a lower price. This is called static competition. Now, Joseph Schumpeter was not that happy with the idea of static competition, and he had his own reasons. And that's why he said that in a society, in an advancing society, we do not care about static competition anymore. We are all about dynamic competition. In a dynamic competition scenario, sellers are not competing on the basis of prices. They are competing on the basis of higher quality. That's why in dynamic competition, according to Schumpeter, sellers are engaging in innovation, and that's why they are trying to improve the quality of their products so that they can sell those products to consumers. And consumers are supposed to be enlightened. It means that consumers will make a rational choice, and that's why they will be able to buy products of higher quality even if they have to pay a higher price for them. Now, I don't think that Schumpeter makes all the sense. I mean, he's correct as far as those consumers are concerned that literally take loans to buy the product that they think is of higher quality. Now, in that case, how do you define quality? Because it's very personal. At the same time, it's highly influenced by the amount of money that is being spent by companies on advertisement and marketing. For example, in a consumerism-based economy like that of USA, a big amount of money is spent on advertisement. So people can be made to believe that one product is of higher quality merely on the basis of marketing and advertisement at a very superficial level, and nobody wants to go to the detail. For example, pharmaceutical products, they are chemically essentially the same salts and they might come from two different brands. But people are likely to buy those brands that come from advanced economies and not those brands that come from developing countries like India. And I've experienced that in the place where I live, that people buy pharmaceutical products that originate in Germany and they do not want to buy products that originate in some advancing economy of the world. So that's why I say that Schumpeter doesn't make sense in absolute terms. However, he is right because the consumer behavior is changing depending on the kind of environment they are subjected to by these corporate houses. So as far as that is concerned, I agree that people prefer to buy those products that they might not be even using to the fullest extent, but still they want to have those products because they think that their personality is upgraded by merely possession of those products. And I know that there are many issues like safety standards and things like that. So I do understand and acknowledge their importance. But at the same time, you have products and services coming from countries like China that are making product available to public at a very low price. In fact, countries like China make products on the whole spectrum of the price range. So they make cheap products, they make expensive products of varying qualities. But what I'm trying to tell you by this point is this, that there is a huge market segment that goes for the cheap products. And the reason for that is that majority of people living on this earth are kind of poor or hail from the middle class who is pretending to be rich by trying to buy high quality products by taking credit or loan from the bank. But I just want to tell you that the kind of behavior that middle class is engaging into, and even sometimes poor people, whenever they try to buy products that they cannot afford, they're just trying to imitate the rich people because that's how our society works, because society values possession of those products that stand at a higher place in the social economic hierarchy of our society. Now, it means that there is steady competition in the market, but at the same time, people are striving to make sure that they become part of dynamic competition in the market. Now, in order to make sure that dynamic competition is efficient and effectuated in the market, we have to make sure that the sellers or the manufacturers, they continuously innovate. And whenever innovation comes into the picture, not only in the sense of business management, but also in order to improve the quality of the products and services that are being offered to consumers, the technology is the main thing. Now, why do I say that? Because technology is the only thing that comes to the rescue of manufacturers and sellers by allowing them to do three things primarily. One is to increase the output. The second is to increase the productivity. And that's why it allows the manufacturers to lay off more labor because they will not have to pay the salary. So that's why the cost of manufacturing goes down. And that's why they can increase their profit margin. So productivity goes up, output goes up. At the same time, the quality of the product is improved. So technology makes sure that the selling side, the manufacturing side is able to economize the whole process of production, at the same time increasing the chances of higher profit making, and by providing a high quality, the supposedly ostensibly high quality product to the consumers. So that's how we had the first industrial revolution, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. The first one was about steam, the second one was about electricity, the third one was about computers, and now we have the fourth industrial revolution in place, artificial intelligence. So that's why technology through industrial revolution is closely integrated with market, with economy. And that market works on the principle of competition because everybody is competing with everybody to make sure that they get the biggest market chunk, the biggest market share so that they can increase their profit margins. They can increase the total profits that they earn by engaging in the activity, in the economic activity that is happening in the market. So now you understand the relation between competition and technology. So in a way, it's safe to say that technology is something that allows you to be more competent in the market. And that's how it works. And when you are more competent in the market, you are in the position to ask for more profits in the market. Now, I just have a confession to make. I think it's more like an admittance. Whenever I say or whenever I doubt the concept of quality, I really believe that the quality that we are talking about normally is something that is very specific to the psyche of a consumer that is mostly manipulated and formulated by the mainstream marketing gimmicks. But at the same time, I do not want to discard or disregard the importance of innovation in our society. Innovation does happen. It's commercialized in a totally different way in our economy, but I do want to acknowledge the importance of innovation because there are many better products now. Not all of them are good. Innovation made in the field of public medicine and other things that are able to make human lives more comfortable in a very genuine and substantial way, not in a very consumerist way, they should be appreciated. And I totally understand that. Now, coming to the point where we have to talk about artificial intelligence, what new issues are being faced by competition in our market because of artificial intelligence? That's the most important point of this video. Now, let us try to understand the challenges that competition in the market is facing because of artificial intelligence. So, interesting thing about artificial intelligence is this, that it's based on technology platform. So, for example, let me explain that to you. The economy has a platform, and you can call that platform a digital platform. It means that all the participants in an economy, they have to be digitally connected to a digital platform in order to make sure that the economy that was manufacturing economy before, but then it became knowledge-based economy, and now it's transforming into a digital economy at the core of which lies AI. In other words, participants to a digital economy want to make sure that there is an economic activity happening. In order to perform those transactions, every participant of that digital economy has to be digitally connected in a very secured way so that they can engage in those activities that can produce returns. This dynamics of digital economy, it relies heavily on data. And the tools that it uses can be referred to as AI tools. And we have to, at this point, understand what relevance is AI of to the whole scenario. The participants in digital economy are not only providing to the people what the people need, they're also predicting their demand in future. So that's why the participants use data and AI tool to make sure that they are able to predict the demand in future. But there is one big demerit, if you would like to call it a demerit, of a digital economy that is based on AI. That the players in that economy are only a few, and there is a very specific reason for that. According to AmiWeb, there are only 9 big tech companies in the world that control the technology landscape. Most of them are based in America and the rest are based in China, not even a single in European Union. But it's not about the geographical regions, it's about the number of companies. And those companies have become very big because of the scaling up effect. It means that in order to exploit the full potential of the digital platform, those companies need to have on board as many consumers as they can. And that's why companies like Facebook, Amazon, Google, they have so many people on board that they cannot expect to have any other competitor in the market. And that's where the problem of competition comes into the picture when we talk about big tech companies that rely heavily on artificial intelligence tools. One issue. In theory, hypothetically, it can be said that there could be a company starting up in some garage with a more amazing business idea, with a great technology, the technology that doesn't already exist. It's possible for that company to be able to compete with big tech giants. And I would say no, it's not possible. Why? Because it's almost impossible to conceive that people are going to scale the new company up to the level they did with the previous big tech company like Amazon. Companies like Amazon have not been running into losses because their ideas were not that great, and that's why they could not make profits. Companies like Facebook have not been ostensibly charging anything from their user base because they don't know how to do business. No, that's not the case. In fact, their business ideas are the best in the world because these companies have been scaling up and getting every possible consumer on board so that whenever they reach that peak, they will be able to make sure that they can do the business they would want to. And in the process, while they were doing it, they were discarding all kinds of competition. Facebook has close to 2.3 to 2.5 billion active monthly users. And that's not a small amount. Look at Amazon. The number of people who are member of Amazon is too high. And remember one thing, it's not only about the discretion that these companies already have or the absolute discretion that these companies will have in future regarding the way they want to do business. It's also about controlling the whole business landscape. They want to, and they already are, setting the standards, the rules with which we play that game. And any other competitor, even if it's hypothetical competitor, they have to abide by the rules that these companies are setting up if they want to, hypothetically again, want to play that game. Because I don't think that those new companies will ever be able to reach that level. It's impossible. Now, there are many people who say that countries that do not have those big tech companies like European Union, they can also play a great role because, to be honest with you, the competition landscape in European Union is the best in the world. The chief of European Union Competition Agency is perhaps the strongest ever in the history of mankind, unless we're talking about those companies that were broken down in America in the very beginning of antitrust scenario in the US. But as far as European Union is concerned, the chief of European Union Competition Agency, Miss Margaret, she has taken very bold decisions. And whenever you refer to her speeches, they are always very futuristic because she is trying to address the new issues that are likely to crop up and are already coming up as challenges before the European market. And I refrain from referring to individuals, but in this case, I have to highlight that this is a very bold approach. But does that mean that European Union will be allowed to contribute to the rule making that will govern global markets? No, it will not be allowed to. Why? Because all the companies that are controlling the tech platform of the world on which the future of digital economy depends are not based in European Union. It can be asserted here that it's not about the countries, it's about those companies. But are we implying that those companies are bigger than the sovereign countries where they do have their headquarters? And I think it will not be a wrong idea to say that. I think companies are really becoming bigger than the geographical jurisdictions they hail from. So it's one of the biggest things that competition in future will have to take into account. Coming back to startups, you look at any startup today, there is a very high failure rate when it comes to startup. But despite that, there are many brilliant startups coming up. They have always been coming to the front. Those startups do not desire that they will ever, they do not even think about it, that they will ever reach that position, such as that of Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. It is not in their ultimate goal list. What do they want? They want to be acquired by those big companies. They want to be absorbed in by those big companies. Those people who are coming up with those startups, they want the money. They want to sell the company to big companies, and that's it. They have lived their dreams. Now, it means that the competition scenario that we have existing in our economy, in our market, strikes out any hope for the new startups to be able to compete with those big companies. In that sense, competition goes out of the window because those startups are not a competition to big companies. These startups are just feeding themselves to the big companies, and there is no competition. Now, we have addressed the competitor side of competition scenario in the market when we are talking about the possibility of having new companies in the market that could compete with already existing big tech companies. Why do I refer to tech companies? Because tech companies are the only big companies that we have today, except oil and other things. But these tech companies have been diversifying their approach towards market, and they are not purely in tech, but they are integrating everything into tech. So tech companies are the most important sector in our economy, and it will always be, because everything, every aspect of human consumption is related to technology and is more likely to be related to technology in future. So that's why I keep referring to companies as tech company whenever I'm talking about competition in the market. So now we come to the second part of competition in the market, and that is consumers. We have already dealt with other competitors which are not likely to be there because the companies that we have today are so big that there is not even a single chance that you will have somebody else in the future competing with already big companies. Now we talk about consumers. How is the changing technology scenario treating consumers when it comes to competition in the market. Now, the job of consumers is to consume. We might think that consumers consume those things that they need, they desire, they want. And then the supply crops up in the market and they cater to that demand, but that's not the reality. In fact, the way economy really functions indicates that first the supply is created, first we have the new products and services, and those products are being marketed to the potential consumers, and finally those potential consumers become the real consumers and they start demanding those products and services. So it's not that supply follows demand. It's the supply first and then the demand follows. So everything that you have been learning from your economics textbooks or from your business management textbooks, that's wrong. First, we have to create product and services, and then we create demand. So understand that basic thing. Now, what should be done to make sure that consumers start wanting the things that have already been created and are ready to be supplied to those consumers in case they come up with the demand? In that case, we have to make sure that the human behavior changes. There is a need to make sure that consumer behavior changes so that they start wanting those things. How do you do that? That's where technology comes into the picture. That's where you deploy AI tools. That is what is happening in Facebook. I've already said that in one of my videos before, and I'm saying it again. You should listen to the interview that Jaron Lanier, the founding father of virtual reality, gave to Channel 4 News of UK. He explains how this is happening, how consumers are being made to change their behavior. Their behaviors are being tweaked without them even realizing it. So consumers are not able to realize, but they are going forward with consumption that they did not even want in the first place, and that consumption has been inculcated into their behavior because of the use of AI technology that is being deployed by these digital platforms. So AI technology is not only able to predict what human beings will be wanting as consumers in future, but at the same time they are able to change the behavior of consumers so that they want more of products and services, and they want different sorts of products and services. And that's why artificial intelligence as a technology is distorting competition in the market, because consumers are not well placed. The free will of consumers has already vanished. It was never there, to be honest, in the first place since the very beginning of modern capitalism, because marketing has always been inducing consumers to buy the things that they never wanted. So the way we say it, the free market principles of economy, they never get to work, because it's not really the demand, it's an artificially created demand. Earlier it was done using marketing techniques. Now it's done using more sophisticated AI tools. So consumers have always been at disadvantage because they become merely a tool of generating profit in the global market system. Just want to add one more point as far as the consumer aspect of competition in the market is concerned. Artificial intelligence is not used only for the purpose of predicting consumer behavior or for the purpose of making sure that consumers are made or forced to buy different products and services that they have already not been consuming. It's also used to make sure that the big tech companies are able to have a dominant position in the markets of those products and services that do not even exist today. And how is it going to happen? The AI tools that are being deployed by these big tech companies and the data that is being collected continuously using these AI tools is not only helping the big tech companies that are controlling their digital platforms, but also the data is being given to those companies that are tailor-making the products and services that do not even exist, but those products and services will be made specific to the peculiar requirement of that consumer. And there is no possibility that any other company in the future that doesn't have access to that data will be able to compete with already existing giants in that regard. Because without data, without access to data, they will not come to know about the peculiar requirements of a human being. Not only that, those companies who do not have access to data will not be able to interact with potential consumer if they are not part of the whole platform that is being controlled by these big tech companies. I just wanted to explain all these things to you about competition and AI technology in an economy. I do not want to go into the merits of the whole scenario. We could do that in some other video, but just try to understand how AI, how new technologies are going to change the competition landscape in an economy, in the future market. Thank you so much.